Joining us now, NBC's Vaughn Hilliard awaiting Trump's remarks, and Republican strategist Susan Del Percio and Democratic strategist Basil Smikle. They're both MSNBC political analysts. Vaughn, Trump and Vice President Harris finally agreed to the debate rules. What are we learning?
Right, we're learning that the debate rules are going to look a lot like they did for the Joe Biden-Donald Trump debates that we saw back in June. And after some back and forth, ultimately the Harris campaign agreeing to the original terms that were put forward by the Trump campaign. And ABC releasing those terms. In part, there are no pre-written notes that are allowed for a response. Each individual candidate will have 2 minutes. And for their rebuttal, they'll have an additional 2 minutes. And then there is also the muted mic situation. When a candidate's time is up, their mic will turn to mute. And so for the campaigns, they should expect a debate to look like that of the one that we saw in June here. And of course, when we're looking at the dynamics of this is different than we have historically seen in presidential debates. And so we should not expect to at least as the public, to hear any interruptions from one candidate over the other. But this was a lot of finagling back and forth. Of course, Donald Trump over the last 24 hours has made claims that are not substantiated, including the idea that he is putting into the right-wing media ecosystem that the ABC is going to be providing questions and answers to Kamala Harris. Of course, there is no credence to that, yet Donald Trump is speaking those words. And so we are now less than a week until that debate here. There was, of course, last night set to be potentially a debate that was going to be hosted by Fox. Of course, Kamala Harris's campaign did not agree to that, so instead Donald Trump appeared for what was billed as a town hall with Sean Hannity.
And Vaughn, any reaction from Team Trump to Liz Cheney's endorsement of Vice President Harris?
We're waiting to hear directly from Donald Trump specifically. J.D. Vance, though, last night while out in Arizona did respond, saying that the campaign had no interest in the endorsement of Liz Cheney, suggesting that it was people like her who were responsible for American troops losing their lives in war, and that she represented a Republican Party that was no longer Trump's Republican Party. And so, of course, Liz Cheney, who helped helm the January 6th Select Committee efforts, has been very vocal ever since leaving Congress that Donald Trump should be nowhere near the White House. And as you heard last night there, indicating that she will be voting for Kamala Harris, which is a striking difference in tenor coming from her compared to 4 years ago when Kamala Harris was selected by Joe Biden to be the VP running mate. She had sent out a statement at the time that was quite vocal in her opposition to Kamala Harris as a political figure. A lot has changed, though, in 4 years.
Anna? Vaughn Hilliard, thank you. Susan, do you see this Cheney announcement changing any minds? I'm thinking maybe Nikki Haley supporters?
What it'll probably do is act more like a permission slip to those Republicans who weren't going to vote for Trump but were going to stay home. That's what I think. That's where the movement may go, is that she's not certainly changing independents or right-leaning or moderates even. But she can get some people out there maybe to say, wow, I really never saw myself doing this, but I will actually go out and vote for the vice president.
And also she talked about, doing that, what you just said, versus writing in sort of protest vote, right? Somebody whose vote won't make a difference when it's just the matchup between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Basil, Trump has said he doesn't need more voters. Should his team be worried about Harris pulling some of these votes in that are on the margins?
Well, he may feel confident that his base is secure, but we're not talking about either candidate's base. We're talking about some of those persuadable voters in a handful of states that may have stayed home were it not maybe for a Liz Cheney endorsement, an open endorsement and proactive endorsement. So I agree with what Susan said. What we're looking at here is the ability for Kamala Harris to create a coalition that, if for no other reason in history, before or after this election, that they come together to do this one thing, and that's vote for Kamala Harris for the presidency. So when I always say that campaigns are additive, you're supposed to grow your base beyond, what you started with. That's what Donald Trump is not not doing. He seems to double down on policies that shrink his base, and that's where an endorsement of Liz Cheney's actually helps.
But Joe Biden had that coalition, too. He had a significant, well, not significant, but the Republicans that voted for Joe Biden in 2020, this is, maybe they're not happy with Harris, but they will, that's where the Cheney endorsement can be there. It's more, I think, of a continuation of the coalition of 2020.
Guys, let's look ahead to the debate. There's a lot of anticipation for it. We all know what a debate can do for a race. Look at what happened last time around and how much has changed because of that debate. And since then, we have the ground rules now, including the muted microphones, which both sides have agreed to. Now, Susan, do you see that being a big factor? We know Kamala Harris didn't want to agree to that rule.
Well, that's because it serves the vice president very well to be able to come back and make her point. She's very good at, at the get-go coming out. But at the end of the day, she's so disciplined and knows how to manage her time and her words that I think she'll be able to watch the clock, deliver the shot she wants to, whereas Donald Trump will just get flat out cut off.
Well, Donald Trump isn't happy already. Ahead of the debate, he's maybe trying to lower expectations, claiming that the deck is stacked against him. Here he was with Fox's Sean Hannity last night. Take a look.
I think a lot of people are going to be watching to see how nasty they are, how unfair they are. I agreed to do it because they wouldn't do any other network. The other thing is, her best friend is the head of the network. Her husband's best friend is married to the head of the network. And they're going to get the questions. I've already heard they're going to get the questions in advance.
To be clear, ABC came out today and really directly refuted that, saying no topics or questions will be shared in advance with campaigns or the candidates. But Basil, what do you think he's trying to do there?
Oh, it's his go-to move. I'm going to make sure that people think that there's no legitimacy to what's about to happen. That is his go-to move. But what I also found interesting is that he did this with Sean Hannity in front of an audience. That's also his go-to move. He loves that. He feeds off of that. This debate will not have an audience. So it gives actually Kamala Harris an opportunity to further make him the outlier that she has worked so hard to try to make him in this last couple of weeks. Make him that outlier, make him the person that does not do well, standing up to someone with the kind of credibility that she has, and you don't get the applause reaction from the crowd to legitimize his comments. So delegitimize him, make him seem small, make him seem petty. I think the kind of discipline that she has, it creates that juxtaposition very well.